Part 9. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 81. New volume, please collect it. About the mysterious giant creature in the Northeast and a giant mosquito that saves mankind. The female college student typed out the title of this line, and then felt dissatisfied, so she deleted the words one by one. Tong Yu, are you still struggling with the summary of this adventure? The roommate walked into the dormitory from the outside and saw the female college student sitting in front of her laptop, frowning and deleting text. You don't believe it anyway, yet Tong Yu glared at his roommate angrily, then continued typing angrily. But she also knew that this adventure she and others had on the northeastern border was really as exciting as the plot of a movie. If it was too exciting, it would be normal for others not to believe it. After returning to the peaceful Shanghai and his college life, Ye Tongyu couldn't recover for a long time. The only thing that surprised her was that after the two instructors reported the matter and contacted the relevant media, nothing happened. Moreover, the two teachers also called me separately and asked me not to try to contact the media on my own. But Ye Tongyu is a student at the Communication University, and his future ambition is to be a reporter. This kind of excellent news would feel blasphemous if it were not revealed. And for some reason, every time she took a break, she would always think of the big mosquito that was said to have saved their group several times. Teacher Lin once said that a very big mosquito flew in front of the strong man who captured her when she was in danger, as if it deliberately disturbed the strong man's concentration. Although she was arrested later, she was still very grateful to this giant mosquito that saved her once, intentionally or unintentionally. And the student of the School of Life, the big boy Zhang Shiming, who behaved like a hero this time, also said that he was helped by the mosquito more than once. When he was entangled with two strong men, the mosquito seemed to a wise comrade helps him resolve crises every time, otherwise he would definitely end up being captured. As for Ye Tongyu himself, he was also saved once by the big mosquito when he was being chased by the man with evil eyes. It can be said to be a coincidence, but everyone was saved once by this mosquito. This doesn't seem like a coincidence. Could it be that the big mosquito really meant to help them? This idea has been born for a long time, so Ye Tongyu wanted to describe them. If it doesn't work in traditional media, then it can always be put online, right? Anyway, there are so many fake news on the internet every day, so it doesn't hurt to have one more, right? This is what Ye Tongyu thinks. Bang. Just when Ye Tongyu was organizing his words and preparing to continue his coding time, the dormitory door suddenly opened. Ting Ting's slightly sharp voice reached Ye Tongyu's ears. Great talent, great beauty. Why didn't you tell me when you came back? Ye Tongyu's expression changed, but there was no fear at this time. She just calmly focused her gaze on the girl who walked in from the door of her dormitory. After experiencing life and death in the Northeast, she was no longer afraid of Ting Ting, who was blackmailing her. Compared with those big men in the Northeast who were armed with guns, this girl was not scary at all. Maybe next, I can ask Ting Ting to compensate me for some mental damages? Even if she really calls someone. Can I ask that classmate Zhang Shiming, who seems to be very powerful, to help me? Thinking of the big boy, Ye Tongyu smiled slightly. The next day, an article signed "The Mysterious Giant Creature from the Northeast and the Legendary Adventure Story of Our Group" began to appear on some forums. No one knows whether this bizarre article will be regarded as a joke and forgotten by people after reading it, or whether it will be regarded as some interesting anecdotes and spark some discussion. Certain things always have a fermentation time, and when the time is up, they will slowly reveal their true colors. The characters in the story in the Northeast region were unaware of the scene that took place in Shanghai. What they faced was an even more violent scene. The protagonists from Shanghai have returned, but for everyone in the factory, their danger has just begun. Bang! A bullet hit the factory wall, causing a cloud of dust. The Siberian wild tiger sitting in the office in the factory immediately stood up in fright from his restless state. He quietly stood behind the curtains and looked outside quietly. Snapped. And while he was watching, a bullet shot directly towards his face. Click. When the Siberian wild tiger saw the bulletproof glass in front of him, it instantly showed signs of shattering. There was a rifle bullet stuck on the bulletproof glass. From the point where the bullet was stuck, the glass showed a spider web-like crack. He was startled and fell backward. "Young man, you were shocked. That's why I told you not to appear next to the window. Don't do this again next time. That window can't block the second sniper attack," came the indifferent voice of the addict on the intercom. Sound. The Siberian wild tiger swallowed his saliva and quickly rolled and crawled away from the window. Bang bang. Violent gunshots were heard from outside. Then the junkie's voice came over the intercom again. "Okay, this wave of 5 people has been killed again. Send someone to bring some food. I haven't done anything for a long time, and I'm a little tired. I'm really young. So cool." The Siberian wild tigers are about to jump up. Back and forth, this senior drug addict he invited defeated 4 waves of 5-man teams. Alone. It is said that the opponents are all top-related teams in the country, and some of them are for this mission. Some big shots deliberately selected soldiers from the army and asked them to pretend to be retired and come to participate in the mission. "I didn't expect that kind of strong man," the addict senior, would be destroyed at the drop of a hat. The Siberian wild tiger was sincerely happy that he had worked hard to win over the senior to become his partner. "Boss, come drink some water and deliver food to the addicted senior. I have already made arrangements." The man in glasses brought a glass of boiling water to the Siberian wild tiger. "Thank you." The Siberian wild tiger took the water glass and was about to drink it to calm down his shock. "Wow!" An exclamation from the second workshop made him throw the water glass directly to the ground. Without thinking much, the Siberian wild tiger was already running out of the office. "What's going on?" The man with glasses looked at his boss's back strangely. "The first floor hall of the second workshop. This is where the connecting pipes are connected, and an exhaust fan is arranged here. If the workshop is functioning properly, the exhaust fan here will continuously extract the air from the underground world, and then send it to the boiler on the second floor. The boiler then undergoes special firing to separate the air in the underground world at high pressure, and finally obtain a black liquid. Those black raw liquids cannot be used directly by humans. They have to go through chemical processing in the first workshop and add certain drugs before they can be transformed into antimicrobial peptides that are beneficial to most human diseases, that is, purple-red liquid. Some outsiders have already called this liquid medicine water of life. However, it is too precious. A bottle of such potion can only be obtained easily by the rich. The lower class of wealthy people can only get it through certain means and pay a huge price. One bottle is priced at $1 million, but it's still affordable and has no market. Otherwise, how could a top killer like a drug addict be bribed by a Siberian wild tiger and risk his life for a few bottles of this stuff? The boiler in the workshop exploded, which caused the factory to stop production for at least a period of time. Not only is money lost every day when production is stopped, but also the medicine that many big people are anxious about is gone. There are maintenance workers now, urgently repairing the pipes and boilers damaged by the explosion amidst the constant sound of gunfire, but they can't do it fast. The previous screams came from the mouths of these maintenance workers in the workshop on the first floor. Is it those things? While running, the Siberian wild tiger's heart trembled. When he first found the factory, he remembered the events very clearly. At that time, he and 5 or 6 brothers entered the ruins of the factory. But among the ruins, there were 3 or 4 extremely huge slender-waisted wasp-like things hovering. Especially one of the guys with a purple appearance killed a brother of the Siberian wild tiger as soon as they appeared. The Siberian wild tiger took out a pistol and shot, but the purple slender-waisted wasp was only shot back by the bullets, but nothing happened. In the end, it was because the wings were hit and a hole was punched through that the purple slender-waisted wasp had to escape into the cracked and rusty pipe and enter the space under the pipe. In fact, the Siberian wild tiger pistols are out of bullets. If the opponent continues to attack them, the Siberian wild tigers will definitely be wiped out. Could it be that thing again this time? The northeast wild tiger doesn't know that the so-called slender-waisted wasp is actually a purple beetle from the underground world. This kind of purple beetle cannot stay on the surface world for a long time. Perhaps at that time, they appeared on the surface just to check their own health. Territory, or if you want a change, come to the surface world to catch some food and will be back soon. And this time, are they actually those giant beetles? The answer is naturally no. In the second workshop, a huge giant mosquito is causing chaos in the workshop. Buzz. 4 or 5 maintenance workers were holding tools, iron rods, and other things, and looked at the monster flying in the air, which looked like an enlarged version of a mosquito. They wanted to attack, but they didn't dare. This is a huge monster that looks like a mosquito magnified hundreds or thousands of times. Just now, a pipe repairman stuck his head into the pipe and turned one of the screws. The plumber looked at the dark space below and couldn't figure out where this bottomless pipe led. He was even worried that if he accidentally fell in, he would just disappear. Just when the plumber was feeling uneasy, a monster that seemed to crawl out of the abyss of hell, with a pair of faint compound eyes, made a flapping noise from below the pipe, and flew towards it with a buzzing sound. The plumber first heard a sound, and when he looked around, the huge mosquito had already appeared in front of him. It was only 30 or 40 centimeters away, so close that he could clearly see the cold compound eyes on the opposite side. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 82. Please collect it. The plumber screamed. And this is the sound that Siberian wild tiger and others heard in the office. Afterwards, the plumber stumbled and retracted his head from the pipe. He was so frightened that he fell to the ground. Before the other people had time to ask anything, all they saw was a pair of long, shiny black legs in the pipe, scratching the wall of the pipe, and a huge head sticking out from the opening that was being repaired. Several people were immediately frightened. "Oh, I don't want to do this either. But I have been waiting in the pipe for a day. If I don't get out when they open the pipe, I don't know when I will have a chance next time." Jia Yan looked at the workers around him and sighed helplessly. "I had thought not to attract human attention before, but now that I had just come out, I had to be seen by people in the factory. Fortunately, everyone in the factory is still somewhat resistant to giant mutated creatures, and they won't publicize anything, so his first priority now is just to find the right opportunity to escape from the factory floor." At this time, the steel door with layers of protection in the workshop sounded like it was opening. The solemn face of the Siberian wild tiger was revealed from outside the door that gradually opened. Rush. At the same moment, Jia Yan's eyes flashed with light. The Siberian wild tiger, who had just opened the workshop door, had no time to react. "I just felt a huge creature flapping its wings and flying in my direction." He was startled and quickly backed away. At the same time, close the workshop door. But it's too late. Jia Yan's body jumped out of the half-opened door by just a hair. Mosquito, the Siberian wild tiger, saw this huge animal and instantly identified its species. He has been kept awake at night by mosquitoes recently. First of all, a few days ago, a large mosquito of 1 or 2 centimeters secretly ate purple-red potion in his subordinate's laboratory. The two of them tried to catch it for a long time but finally failed. Then he became even more angry when he sent his men to hunt down the escaping university teachers, students, and others when he saw a mosquito about 10 centimeters in size. Jump out and destroy their good deeds, otherwise, his factory would be like this. That's not all. There was an explosion in the factory workshop. It is said that there was also a big mosquito doing mischief at that time. Of course, the explosion had nothing to do with it. But so many things are related to giant mosquitoes. The Siberian wild tiger feels that it has provoked some mosquito nest. Otherwise, why are giant mosquitoes involved in everything? Of course, he also thought about whether those mosquitoes were the same one, but he overturned this idea as soon as he raised it. How could a mosquito change 3 times a day? Even if it can mutate, it can change from 1 to 2 centimeters. The size reaches 10 centimeters, so the variation is not that exaggerated, right? And now this supergiant mosquito is even more exaggerated. An average mosquito only has a few millimeters. And this one is a good guy. Its body alone is 25 centimeters, which is thousands of times larger than the average mosquito. The 10 centimeter large mosquito I saw before was a child, but this one is the ancestor of mosquitoes. It was impossible for the Siberian wild tiger to believe that the giant mosquito in front of him was the one he had seen before. Jia Yan opened the door and looked at the Siberian wild tiger in front of him with compound eyes, a faint light flashing in his eyes. This person once threatened his life, and Jia Yan really wanted to take revenge. But this was obviously not the right time, and the workers behind him also reacted one by one, chasing after him with tools, sticks and the like. To be honest, Jia Yan felt that he was being hunted by this group of humans, and his sense of crisis was not as strong as when he was hunted by that purple cockroach. In other words, his biological instinct told him that these humans were not even as dangerous as a purple beetle. But Jia Yan doesn't blindly believe in biological instincts or anything like that. What worries him most is the guns carried by the Siberian wild tigers. If this group of people didn't have guns, Jia Yan would even have the confidence to kill a few of these ordinary people and then leave calmly. Of course, I must leave now to avoid a long night and many dreams. Sure enough, just when Jia Yan fluttered his wings and flew towards the outside world from the workshop door, the Siberian wild tiger quickly drew the pistol from the holster on his belt. This is another copycat version of a well-known foreign pistol. Jia Yan has been paying attention to the movement behind him. After all, the compound eyes of insects have a much wider field of vision than humans. Seeing the Siberian wild tiger pull out his pistol, he felt excited. Although he was confident in his defensive clot, he was not sure that his wings were bulletproof. Jia Yan quickly twisted his wings, and his flying body made a snake-like change in the air. Snapped. The Siberian wild tiger fired. The gunshot stunned the maintenance workers who ran out of the workshop, and they did not dare to step forward. At this moment, Jia Yan felt his body suddenly stand on end with fear, and a sudden sense of crisis made his body movements more than twice as fast. Jia Yan didn't know whether his sense of crisis was acquired after mutation or whether it came from biological instinct. I only know that I have become more and more aware of danger recently, especially when being targeted by a pistol at this time. It seems that my hair is standing on end. The speed of his diagonal flight suddenly accelerated. Immediately afterwards, a bullet that was invisible to the naked eye grazed Jia Yan's mosquito body and shot high into the sky. It actually missed. The expression of the northeastern wild tiger changed slightly. Although his marksmanship is nothing compared to that of a strong man, it is still pretty good. Especially for such a large target so close at hand, he originally thought he had a good chance of hitting it. But who would have thought that this big mosquito would actually know how to dodge? Is this a mosquito or a mosquito spirit? The Siberian wild tiger raised his pistol again. But Jia Yan in the air had already changed direction, increased his speed to extremely fast, and flew towards the corner of the building. When the Siberian wild tigers came out in pursuit, they only saw a huge flying figure, which reached dozens of meters away and then disappeared into the forest. It's so fast, it's not a mosquito anymore. The Siberian wild tiger stared in amazement as a huge mosquito flew out dozens of meters away just as soon as it turned a corner, and its expression became very surprised. In theory, such a huge mosquito cannot grow to such a big size even if it eats the liquid medicine in his factory. Moreover, even if it grows to such a big size, its flight speed is limited to the way mosquitoes flap their wings, so it is impossible to grow to such a big size. Hurry! They are all on par with Big Bird. It must have come out of that passage. It must have. The northeastern wild tiger firmly confirmed that Jia Yan appeared in the passage, and only the place where the purple slender-waisted bee crawled out could such a weird creature appear. Compared with the huge slender-waisted wasp, which is about half a meter long, this mosquito is quite small, and the slender-waisted wasp is not afraid of bullets. If it weren't for the limited damage that its wings can withstand, the Siberian wild tiger would have died in the ruins of the original factory. So close. Jia Yan's tubular heart was beating rapidly as he flew into the jungle. Now that the heart has been mutated, its ability to pump blood is much stronger. It was really dangerous just now. Jia Yan knew from the beginning that it would be a dangerous process to return to the outside world through the cracks in the factory, but he didn't expect to really have to face the obstruction of firearms. Compared with previous times, he was caught with a net by Siberian wild tigers at most. This time the opponent was so frightened that he took out a gun, which shows that Jia Yan's appearance has greatly improved the deterrent effect. However, due to this fright and the violent flapping of its wings, Jia Yan's problem of insufficient oxygen absorption on the surface became apparent again. At this time, the body was a little weak. I forgot to inhale again when I was nervous just now. We must develop this habit, otherwise lack of oxygen during strenuous exercise will be very troublesome. Jia Yan controlled the muscles on both sides of the air inlet on his abdomen and quickly used the breathing function to replenish himself with oxygen. But I finally came out. This factory may no longer have any role for me except as a passage to enter the underground world next time. Jia Yan hid in the bushes and looked at the factory scenery with his compound eyes. When Jia Yan came out of the passage just now, he smelled the very strong smell of purple-red medicinal liquid again. The taste is still so fragrant, but Jia Yan doesn't have the slightest desire to drink it. He immediately knew that the purple-red liquid would have no effect on him anymore. Jia Yan's emotions are a bit complicated. After all, the factory is the most important part of his rise, and it may be said that it directly created his current strength. No, there are still things I need in the factory. Jia Yan thought of the black liquid with violent effects. If there is anything that is more powerful than the mysterious juice of the underground world, it must be the black liquid extracted by this factory by extracting the air from the underground world. Whether it is purple-red liquid or mysterious juice, it seems to only strengthen Jia Yan himself. But the black liquid has a powerful transformation function. Not only did it add defensive clots to Jia Yan's body, it also gave his body organs many changes in good directions. Its transformation of Jia Yan's body was the most intense and thorough. Then my next step is to obtain this black liquid. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed faintly. Find the book garden. Just when Jia Yan made some plans and ideas. Click. The sound of dry fallen leaves and cracked leaves by shoes could be heard lightly not far away. Huh? Who can actually escape my mutated hearing tentacles and come so close? Jia Yan was shocked and quickly looked away at the compound eyes. A thin human male stood not far from Jia Yan. He was looking at the huge mosquito lying in the hidden place of the leaves with great interest. It's really interesting that such a big mosquito really exists. The thin middle-aged man said this into the intercom. Addict, Jia Yan's eyes widened and he immediately remembered this face he had seen before. This person seems to be a very, very powerful top killer. Escape. The next moment, Jia Yan felt an unprecedented sense of crisis in his heart. The extremely intense sense of crisis made him instinctively use the fastest speed. Spread your wings. Just run away and escape. You can't escape. At the same time, the addict raised his arm and pointed the black muzzle of the pistol at Jia Yan, who was about to take off. Snapped. Smoke fills the air. Gunshots ring out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 83. Another small recommendation begins in the afternoon. Let's see how the recommendation next week goes. If it's good, this book will still have a chance. If it's not good, it just depends on whether Bulletin U can persevere. Gunshots ring out. The dark muzzle was like a black hole that could absorb everyone. No matter in heaven or on earth, it is impossible to escape. Drug addicts use firearms to shoot bullets, which is much scarier than the previous Siberian wild tigers. At this moment, Jia Yan only felt in his heart that there seemed to be a pair of eyes behind him, staring at him. No matter whether he was flying in the sky or on the earth, these eyes could not be missed. The bullet will definitely hit you. Jia Yan made this judgment. As expected, Jia Yan only felt that his chest and back were suddenly bombarded by a huge force. Boom! This force was so great that it was like an ancient beast attacking with anger, hitting him hard in the back. Click! The clot made a breaking sound immediately. But Jia Yan's body definitely has more than one layer of clot armor. After several nirvanas and mutations, his defense power is absolutely amazing. Kaka. The second layer of defense was broken again. The impact of the bullet is too great. Click. The pistol bullet finally penetrated the first two layers of defense, and Jia Yan's body was pushed 10 meters away by the bullet. Since the bullet was temporarily unable to penetrate Jia Yan's protective armor, the penetrating force was converted into thrust, causing Jia Yan, who was relatively light in weight, to be pushed continuously in the air. The speed of the instantaneous departure exceeded Jia Yan's maximum flight speed. Kaka. Jia Yan felt that the defensive armor on his back was still cracking. But the kinetic energy of the bullet is already very small. Sure enough, my previous guess was correct. Starting from the third mutation, it is right that the body should focus on defense. Now this pistol bullet is absolutely defensible. But after that, the addict will continue to attack. Follow the inertia of this forward movement and run away. Jia Yan's eyes were fierce, and he ignored the clot armor that was still fragmenting little by little. He directly flapped his wings and flew towards the forest leaves in front. With the kinetic energy and inertia of the bullet, and Jia Yan being very decisive in thinking of the next escape plan, it was only a few tenths of a second before he was hit by the bullet. With kinetic energy and inertia, Jia Yan could fly 50 or 60 meters away from the original place in 1 second. It will disappear in the blink of an eye. Oh! This big mosquito is really amazing, the addict showed an interested expression on his face. Then in his outstretched palm, the pistol burst into flames again. Snapped. You still want to hit it this time, Jia Yan made a high-speed turn in the bushes. This bullet fired from 50 or 60 meters away actually barely missed one of his feet, and he dodged it. With a series of friction sounds flying through the bushes, Jia Yan's body of 20 or 30 centimeters disappeared directly in the sound of rustling. Gone. The addict still held up his pistol and shook his head helplessly. The accuracy of pistol shooting was only so far. He had already concluded that he could no longer hit the enemy after failing to hit a large mosquito at 50 or 60 meters. It's just a mutated mosquito, and it's not an enemy. There's no need to chase it any further. This big mosquito was found before, but it was only because the Siberian wild tiger mentioned it on the walkie-talkie. He felt interested, so he followed the direction described by the Siberian wild tiger and came over to have a look. Now that the opponent has run away, let's just run away. Whether he goes to scare passersby or something else next is none of his business. Since the drug addict came to this factory, he has seen a lot of mutated animals. Although this big mosquito is really too big, it seems to be smaller than those giant centipedes. He didn't find it strange. However, this mosquito's body seems to be bulletproof. This is a bit beyond common sense. Whatever, I'll take a rest and prepare to fend off the next attack team. The addict sat down against a tree, resting his head on the tree, closing his eyes and concentrating. In the forest, a big mosquito flew past quickly. The bushes were slightly swept down by the strong wind of his flight. Finally, he stopped in an area of primeval forest with denser trees. The large mosquito penetrated into the top of the tree crown more than 20 meters high and stopped in a fallen leaf. 6 long legs stood on the canopy. How thrilling! Jia Yan was very nervous. When he was attacked by drug addicts before, he really felt the breath of death. Even if the opponent is using a pistol with a small caliber, it seems that the destructive power is difficult to penetrate his own clot armor, but the pressure of being a top killer still makes Jia Yan almost breathless. But, my clot armor actually blocked all the bullets fired at close range. This is good news. The clot armor on Jia Yan's chest and back, during the third mutation and the process of absorbing the mysterious juice to become stronger, a total of 5 layers of clot armor were solidified. Now 2 layers have been penetrated by pistol bullets, but there are still 3 layers below. It can be said that it is quite easy. The addict's shooting skills are so accurate. Because of this accuracy, if you want to hit him in the back, you will definitely hit him. It would be dangerous if he used a half bucket of water to hit Jia Yan, because he knew that his wings, balance rods, and tentacles could not withstand bullets. If those half buckets of water wanted to hit him on the back, he would not be able to hit him in the back. It will definitely hit the wings or something, and these parts will definitely be injured by then. Hey, my clot is forcing bullets out. Jia Yan discovered that the clot armor on his body slowly repaired itself after being shattered, and the clot on his back even slowly forced out pistol bullets. Snap! The bullet fell from the back and fell lightly to the ground. Jia Yan was surprised. I have felt that my clot armor is like that kind of biological glue. Although it is hard, it is not very hard, but its toughness is terrifying. I just didn't expect it to have the function of self-repair. This is better, although it seems to consume a lot of energy. Jia Yan once again felt that the mysterious juice in his body, which was already low, was being depleted again. Although the process is a bit more dangerous, fortunately it finally came out of the factory. Over at the factory, it seems that the exploded boiler has not been repaired yet, so there must be a lot of time before work can start. And there seems to be other troubles. Even drug addicts are in the factory. I remember that the drug addicts were not there before. Factories. Jia Yan lay on the tree crown and thought for a long time. Although he really wanted to try the black liquid again to see if his wings and other parts could also have the ability to defend against bullets next time. However, it seems that the factory is unlikely to start operations in the near future, so naturally there will be no night liquid produced. And there is such a scary person as a drug addict there. Jia Yan really doesn't want to face such a strong man. Then while waiting for the factory to reopen, I will try to adapt and exercise my current body. Jia Yan finally made a decision. My current body is definitely strong enough. I can even withstand pistol bullets. Although firearms such as rifles or sniper rifles are probably still powerful enough, compared to the past when someone could kill you with just one slap, that's a huge difference. But now, I have definitely not unleashed the full potential of my body. And even some methods to assist the body, you can also try it. At least the next time I break into the factory, my combat power must be enough to face the factory's defense force. Even enough to face drug addicts, as well as the purple worms and the worm army in the underground world. Otherwise, my current battle will be with such strength, even if you die in the factory, you will definitely end up being chased by those purple worms in the underground world. That's right. My first goal now is to enhance my combat effectiveness. Jia Yan's compound eyes are faint. At the top of this tree canopy, he made the decision to develop his own body's fighting power. No one knows what kind of terrifying combat power such a giant mosquito over 20 centimeters in size will achieve after being tempered. Thousands of kilometers away in the international city of Shanghai, the female college students had no idea that the mosquito they were paying attention to had reappeared and was about to emerge into a stronger form. She's just paying attention to the posts she makes. This novel is well written. The publisher is a moldy girl, right? I'm looking for some sexy photos and a date. Dragon Ball is very well written. Hurry up and write a sequel. Let me tell you that in the next episode, the male protagonist will go to that factory, blow up their lair, and kill all the giant creatures. Don't blame me for spoiling the party. Find my name at Chuyuan called Lei Feng. Beauty, add me QQ353454433, let's talk. That mosquito is really good. Can you still find it now? Find it quickly and raise it. Where can you find such a good pet? Please adopt that mosquito, I'll ask you for 100,000. If it's too little, you can negotiate the price. Is this true? It feels like the place names you wrote are very real. Is this really personal experience? Everything upstairs is bad. The poster wrote it in the first line. This is personal experience. Whoever doubts is the bad guy. Please write down the specific incident and we will help you condemn the relevant units that did not do anything. Yatangyu slid the mouse and looked at the messages on the laptop screen. Some questioned the authenticity of the incident, while others supported her. There are also some advertisements, asking for sexy photos and dating. But Yatangyu ignored these. Yatangyu just polished his personal experience and wrote it down. The whole thing looks like a memo and a novel, with a total of more than 10,000 words, and then posted it on several very influential forums. Unexpectedly, it really triggered a wave of craze. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 84. Urgent, please collect it. Yatangyu's accounts in several forums and her private mailbox have long been filled with various letters, and people are constantly writing messages to her. Of course, not all the news in the post is good, some is bad. For example, some netizens told her that if this news is true, then she, the poster, cannot guarantee whether it is the location of relevant national institutions. If it is really a national institution, the poster posted the information so completely, which is equivalent to telling the world directly that there is a Chinese country in that border area. The mysterious Biological Research Institute has even cultivated countless giant creatures. This is tantamount to betraying the country. When Yatangyu saw this message, his heart felt really cold. At this moment, a knock on the door sounded in her dormitory. Who? Yatangyu closed the notebook, then frowned and stepped forward, opening the dormitory door. Unexpectedly, standing outside the door were 3 men and women wearing police uniforms. Miss Yatangyu? Please cooperate. Because you posted online posts that harmed relevant national units, we are going to arrest you now. The leading man glanced at Yatangyu, and then motioned to the policewoman behind to step forward. The handcuffs directly cuffed Yatangyu. Another male police officer lifted up the laptop that Yatangyu had placed on the table. Yatangyu was stunned, her eyes widened, and before she could explain anything, she was escorted out of the dormitory by these police officers. She never believed that a factory with such rudimentary equipment and a factory under its control could really be a state agency. Tongyu. A dormitory sister behind her looked at the scene and wanted to say something, but when a police officer turned around and glared at her, she did not dare to speak anymore. Several people escorted Yatangyu and walked quickly, and the students who passed by looked at them dumbfounded. These girls had never seen the police arrest people, and the arrests were common acquaintances in their dormitories. When they arrived downstairs, Yetangyu felt something was wrong when he saw the police car. That was not a police car at all, but a very ordinary-looking Pentium sedan. "Are you the police?" Yetangyu asked with a frown. "We'll take you to the secret criminal police team. Get in the car and stop talking nonsense," a male police officer shouted coldly. Several people escorted Yetangyu into the car, and then the two Pentium cars started directly and headed out of the campus. Among the students in the dormitory, someone informed the school leaders about this scene. The school also paid great attention to the situation and quickly contacted the police. However, the response they received was that there was no such thing at all. Who are these people? They actually arrested students like this. Immediately, the real police were dispatched to sort out clues and prepare to rescue the captured female college student. Yetangyu was soon taken away from the city and came to a house in a small village. "Who are you?" No matter how neurotic Yetangyu was, he realized something was wrong. Several people ignored Yetangyu and pushed her into a room. One of them opened Yetangyu's standby laptop and happened to see the posting page she had opened. The woman opened her mouth and uttered a string of words that Yetangyu couldn't understand. "Foreigner. Isn't this Japanese?" When Yetangyu heard this language, although he didn't understand it, he roughly knew that it was Japanese. These guys speak Chinese very authentically, but they are not even Chinese. What did they bring themselves to this place for? Yetangyu's eyes widened in horror. Yeah, can you describe to us the building complex you have been to? I hope you will cooperate well. Otherwise, we have a boy here who likes beautiful girls very much, and he has some special hobbies. We can't guarantee what we'll do to you. Don't you Japanese people all have special hobbies? Yetangyu wanted to say this very much, but she didn't dare. Under the intense gaze of the other party, she had no choice but to start describing in detail her adventure experience to the northeast. Anyway, she had already written about this in detail on the internet, and now these people just wanted her to fill in some small details. It's just a place. A female college student was taken away by a group of people pretending to be law enforcement officers in broad daylight, which caused quite a stir in Shanghai. Because some students exposed this matter online, and there was official evidence denying that they took Yetangyu away. So where did this beautiful female college student go? Is she safe now? Countless people are paying attention to this news. Yeah, how big is the mosquito you mentioned? Are you sure it's more than 5 centimeters? In the mysterious house, the police officer was still questioning Yetangyu. I confirm that he is over 5 centimeters, but I don't know if it is 10 centimeters or not, Yetangyu replied pitifully. It was already dark, and she had been detained for more than 5 hours. She was thirsty and hungry. But the uncertainty about her future life made her even more afraid. Each of these people stopped pretending to be police officers. They took off their fake police uniforms and put on ordinary people's clothes. Very good. We understand everything you said. Thank you very much for your cooperation. The man in the lead glanced at the man behind him. Yetangyu watched in horror as the other people exited the room, and the man came forward. Just when the situation was critical, the leading man who had just gone out suddenly opened the door to the room and shouted something in Japanese. The man who was about to approach Yetangyu changed his expression, turned back, and disappeared from the door of the room together with the leading man. Yetangyu's hands were handcuffed to the corner of the table, and he suddenly didn't know what happened. Not long after, a group of people wearing police uniforms came to the room. Miss Ye, are you okay? The police officer revealed Yetangyu's identity with just one sentence. Seeing this scene, Yetangyu didn't know that this was the real police coming. It was they who scared away the gangsters who were about to attack them. Tears of fear suddenly appeared in the corners of her eyes. Half an hour later. A faint voice came from the mansion of a certain big shot. There are actually Japanese people involved. What is the past of the Northeast Wild Tiger Factory? You all should go and investigate carefully. If you find out, give me the news immediately. After hanging up the phone, the big man looked out the window at the starry night sky. The people of Japan are actually so anxious about this news. What do they have to do with the Northeast Wild Tiger Guy's factory? It's not just the Japanese country. I just got information that some secret personnel from the Star-Spangled Banner country have entered our Chinese country, and there are even some super mutants mixed in among them. As the protector of that guy from the Northeast Wild Tiger, this is really frustrating. But the more you value that little factory, the more valuable it is. In addition to the so-called antimicrobial peptides, there may be other secrets. The voice of thinking to himself fell silent. Jia Yan is flying happily in the forest. He's very fast. Even before his body reached 10 centimeters, Jia Yan's ultimate flying speed could reach about 50 kilometers per hour. But now his body has been enlarged dozens of times, and he has learned the more effortless flying method of borrowing updrafts. The speed and endurance have been improved to an unbelievable level. He was sure that his speed must be more than 130 kilometers per hour. This is still cruising speed. If it reaches the limit, it is estimated that the number can increase by about 100 kilometers, which means it can reach a maximum speed of more than 230 kilometers per hour. And Jia Yan feels that there is still room for improvement in speed. Jia Yan's body cannot be measured in ordinary ways. After several mutations, his physique is far from proportional to his body size. Just like blocking a bullet, even the largest animal on land, the elephant, cannot do it. Jia Yan is only less than 30 centimeters long, but he can do it. It completely surpasses the so-called limits of living things. Therefore, it is entirely possible that his flying speed can reach a higher limit. Fly. Jia Yan flies in the forest in the night sky. When his body reaches this level, he is no longer afraid of most creatures, let alone flying ones. Even the lions and tigers in the earthly world are not afraid of him. These animals are powerful, but Jia Yan is a flying creature. As long as he is not bitten by the opponent, he only needs to rush down and stab the opponent's head with his mouth needle, or pierce the opponent's heart with his tail needle. Even these creatures will definitely die. Of course, fighting these animals is also dangerous. Jia Yan will not fight them unless necessary. There's a wild boar down there. While Jia Yan was flying, his eyes suddenly lit up. His biological infrared senses sensed a mammal wandering through the forest below. This is an adult wild boar. It is looking for food in the dense forest. Its long nose is constantly arching here and there, looking for something to eat. I happen to be hungry. Let's go get some blood. The mysterious juice sucked into Jia Yan's body became less and less, and he no longer had the strength to fly any longer. You happen to see such a mammal at this time, so go down and suck some blood. Don't tell him anything about protecting animals, go to Shuyuan. Jia Yan is no longer a human being, and he won't die even if he sucks some blood, right? His compound eyes fell faintly. Wild boars below the jungle, also known as mountain boars, generally have an adult length of more than 1 meter, and some can even reach 2 meters in length. The wild boar below is about 1.5 meters long and looks very large and bloated. It has tall bristles on its back. These bristles are like hedgehog steel needles and are very hard. The wild boar's ears are very sensitive. When he heard a small sound coming from high in the sky, he immediately looked up. After Jia Yan mastered the flying method he had learned, he was able to try to minimize the number of flappings of his wings when diving, just like those birds flying on the air. After the wild boar looked at the huge mosquito flying above its head, it continued its foraging behavior without caring. No matter what kind of monster this is, the wild boar has never seen any flying creature attack itself. So he doesn't care. But it is obviously wrong. When Jia Yan's slender feet stepped on the mane of the wild boar's back and landed on him, the wild boar woke up in surprise. "It's really for me." It immediately opened its mouth fiercely and bit into the flying monster that dared to offend itself. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 85. Please collect. Wild boars are fierce and aggressive in nature, and sometimes they even dare to fight tigers. The wild boar that Jia Yan faced was not small in size, and was basically a domineering being in this mountain forest. At this moment, he opened his mouth to come, and the fangs appeared in his mouth, which were extremely sharp and very frightening. Its mane stood up, trying to stab the flying creatures off its back. But Jia Yan was on his back, stepping on the sharp mane, but he was not affected by the mane at all. The wild boar opened its mouth and bit, but no matter how it turned around, it could not bite the flying creature on its back. It kept jumping around anxiously in the jungle. No matter how hard it was thrown, it could not throw the intruder on its back off the ground. "It's useless, my 6 legs have a lot of power. You can't get rid of them." Jia Yan's 6 long legs tightly grasped the back of the wild boar, and the rough skin allowed him to hold firmly. The downy-like things on his 6 legs are now wrapped in thick clots, which will obviously reduce the friction when grabbing things, but they have great strength and can also stand firm on the back of the wild boar. Jia Yan lowered his mouthpart slightly. In the wild boar's frightened eyes. "Stab out." Humph. The thick stinging needle was far from being gentle, causing the wild boar to cry out in horror and pain, and it struggled even more violently. But no matter how hard he struggled, the flying creature on his back refused to fall. It also refuses to relax the needle inserted into its body. Jia Yan found that as he grew bigger, his mouth needle became stronger. The needle that penetrates the living body cannot find any tiny capillaries, and there is no need to look for them. Anyway, as soon as it penetrates, many capillaries will be damaged, and blood will immediately overflow. Jia Yan simply let the needle stir in the muscles of the wild boar's back. The wild boar's groan of pain became even more miserable. The moon was dark and the wind was high, and the giant mosquito carried out the crime against the wind. He caused a wild boar to scream miserably, and the screams were heard far and wide in the night. How miserable! Finally, blood was inhaled along Jia Yan's mouth parts. The tired boar stood there, silently waiting for the end of the enemy's atrocity of inserting itself into his body. Wild boar blood is really good. It's natural and pollution-free. It tastes better than human blood. Jia Yan slightly recognized the wild boar's blood. He is so big that if he sucks blood, ordinary creatures really can't bear it. But this wild boar is 1.5 meters long and weighs more than most humans, so after Jia Yan sucked almost 300 ml of its blood, at least it still seemed fine on the surface. Just a little weak. Jia Yan looked at his round belly, and could faintly see the bright red color inside through the clot. "Okay, thank you for your contribution, big man." Jia Yan fluttered his wings and flew into the sky. Only the wild boar that stood there after being brutalized by Jia Yan seemed to be sobbing faintly like a little lady. After replenishing nutrients, Jia Yan felt that his strength was back. Although the blood was still far behind the mysterious juice, it was one of the few mosquito foods, and it was much better than plant juice. The scenery of a town appeared not far away, but when Jia Yan saw the lights, he turned around and continued flying deeper into the forest. Now he doesn't like to go to places where humans appear. After all, his figure is easily discovered by others. If it causes a topic, it won't be good. Of course, nothing is absolute, but it's just not necessary right now. There are bats down there. Jia Yan's flying height was maintained at a height of more than 50 meters, which is difficult for ordinary mosquitoes to reach. After leaving the human town, he looked around with his compound eyes and found many flying figures flying at high speed in the woods below. That's a bat. They are old rivals. Jia Yan is no longer a bat that can be used as food, but this does not mean that Jia Yan will not trouble them. These bats are very flexible, and they are perfect opponents for my simulated flight combat. Let's use them as combat training. Dozens of bats were flying around in the woods. These bats use their mouths to emit ultrasonic sounds, and then use their sensitive ears to receive these sounds. After feeding back to their biological organs, they can see the night scene. Bats are naturally masters of catching mosquitoes, sometimes eating hundreds of mosquitoes in a night. When Jia Yan's body fell down, another bat that he couldn't distinguish flew towards him. Maybe he just thought it was a slightly larger mosquito, but when he got there, the bat immediately braked. It's scary. This is not just a big mosquito, it is definitely a supergiant version of mosquito. The body of a bat is only a few centimeters long, and its wings are only a dozen centimeters when spread out. But this huge mosquito above their heads reaches 25 centimeters in length. Spread the wings and stretch out the 6 long legs, covering an area of 70 to 80 centimeters. An absolute behemoth. The bat, which was several centimeters in size, looked like a child in front of him. Jia Yan flew to the forest area, and then flew at high speed towards the black bat that pounced on him. The bat was frightened. It froze for a moment, then flapped its wings suddenly and turned. Escape. Now is the time to test Jia Yan's flying flexibility. Jia Yan's flying speed is definitely faster than these bats, but his flexibility is limited by his huge body and lack of training, so he is much worse. Chase the pest. But as soon as the bat burrowed into the woods, Jia Yan saw a tree getting closer and closer, and it was too late to turn around. He had no choice but to control his wings and quickly reduce his flying speed. By the time he looked for the bat again, he had no idea where it was going. Don't worry, there are a lot of bats here, enough for me to train. Jia Yan spotted the other one and lunged at it again. This time the bat was eating a moth. It didn't expect such a huge monster to fly behind it. By the time it reacted, Jia Yan's compound eyes were almost touching its wings. The bat was startled, and then its flying posture changed, and it flexibly changed direction and flew to the right. Jia Yan's wings flapped violently. In terms of pure speed, he is definitely much faster than this bat. However, as soon as his body got close to the bat, he immediately turned around and then dived into the woods. Jia Yan's body was too big and he couldn't catch up even if there were obstacles. It seems that this flight training is not that simple. But the effect will definitely be there. I can now reach a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour, which is relatively fast even compared with birds. But my flexibility is much worse. Now I am chasing these bats while changing various flying postures. I will always develop my best flight mode. The more difficult it is, the more necessary Jia Yan feels to do it. Flying speed is just a matter of strength. Although there is still room for improvement in his current speed, it will definitely not increase much without undergoing the next mutation. But if you are flexible, you can develop it through training. It is very necessary to train flexibility. Just like in the underground world, those flies in the cave fly more nimbly than him. And when attacking, if the body is more flexible, it can also be more accurate. Jia Yan can even accurately attack the enemy in flight instead of winning by chance in a fight. His current imaginary enemy is those purple beetles. This kind of existence is like a big mountain lying in front of Jia Yan. They are bigger than Jia Yan and even their body is no worse than Jia Yan. Not to mention flying, Jia Yan doubted that these guys, which were nearly half a meter long, could break through the limit of biological flying speed and reach the speed of the fastest bird, the sharp-tailed swift. When fighting against these midges, if you have a more flexible flying ability than them, that would be a chance to regain some of your disadvantage. So the current training is absolutely necessary. Jia Yan flew towards another bat again. An hour passed in pursuit and escape. Although no bats have been caught yet, Jia Yan also made a discovery. While turning in a small range, he felt that the balance rod on his back could slightly change his flying posture by using the muscles below to control it. Although the muscles that control this part are not very strong, so the effect is not very big, but in high-speed movement, a little change can make a huge difference. Jia Yan started to try to control the balance stick. The so-called balance rod is actually another pair of degenerated wings of dipteran animals. Over a long period of evolution, the hind wings turned into balance rods. This is the evolutionary direction of biological selection. After the hind wings degenerate into balance rods, the double wings. This is how the project was born. Chasing another bat. This bat was very agile. When Jia Yan chased it, he made a dexterous turn in the air. But after chasing bats for so long, Jia Yan is very familiar with their movement patterns. I had already made a good judgment and made a slight movement of the muscles controlling the balance rod. At the same time, the wings control direction changes. Even the body is leaning sideways. Several long legs consciously stretched out to where they wanted to turn. This series of movements immediately caused Jia Yan's body to change direction extremely quickly. Follow the bat. Looking at the dark bat so close at hand, Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed with light. He suddenly stretched out his mouth part, and the needle, as hard as a steel needle, shot out. The mouth needle was like a bullet, carrying a string of shadows and hitting the bat's back. Penetrate the body and stab out from the chest. Zhizzy. The bat lets out a high-pitched cry of pain. But his heart was pierced, and he could only scream twice unwillingly, then weakly slipped out of Jia Yan's needle, and then fell to the ground. Died. Very good. This is the first bat I've killed, and I'm going to kill more. Until you develop your best flexibility. I rest during the day and exercise at night. This is bound to be a sleepless night. Jia Yan continued to train, but there were undercurrents surging in some places. People who have a strong perspective on the overall situation have already vaguely felt that something is about to happen. As long as there is a fuse, an incredible event may break out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 86. Please collect it. Let's collect this book together and let the editor take a new look at this book. In the dead of night, the lights of thousands of houses are extinguished. It was late at night. In the almost deserted small city streets, there are scattered pedestrians walking around. In this scene, the two tall blonde faces are very conspicuous in the city. Of these two people, one is a handsome foreign man with blonde hair. The other one was older, with a protruding belly and slightly thinner blonde hair. James, guess, do those Chinese people know that we have entered this country now? The old middle-aged man looked at the city in front of him with sarcasm on his face. No matter how he looked at it, this Chinese country was far inferior to the Star-Spangled Banner country where he was. He even believed that all other countries in the world combined would not be a match for the Star-Spangled Banner country, so his arrogance was obvious. Hampton, don't underestimate China, okay? As the biggest opponent of our Star-Spangled Banner in the future, China is definitely not as simple as you think. The handsome young man shook his head solemnly. I'm sure that the Chinese side definitely knows about our entry, but I don't know if they will just let us move freely, or if they will come to cause us trouble. The handsome young man suddenly paused mid-sentence. It seems they chose to cause trouble for us, the old foreigner took over his words. Then only 6 figures were seen appearing on the road around the two of them. Each of these people wore strict protective equipment and carried live ammunition. They all looked like they were strong warriors with actual combat experience. But even so, the 6 people still surrounded the 2 stars and stripes citizens as if they were facing a formidable enemy, without letting down their guard at all. Their firearms jammed and loaded. China welcomes you too. I wonder if you two have time to be our guests. Among the 6 Chinese soldiers, a middle-aged man who looked slightly older said solemnly in smoothie language. The old middle-aged foreign man had a ferocious smile on his face. You should be the king of the Chinese army. The Chinese military doesn't want to have a direct conflict with our Star-Spangled Banner country, so it only uses a few elites to fight us, right? Among the 6 soldiers, the middle-aged man's expression changed slightly. The foreign man's guess was correct. They were the kings of Chinese soldiers. The reason why a large number of troops are not used is because the 2 stars and stripes people in front of them have special status. If too many people are used, it is very likely that they will become enemies with the stars and stripes country, and no one wants to see the consequences. If only a few soldiers are used, a head-on battle will be won. One of these 2 stars and stripes nationals is Hampton, who was once known as the 100 enemy musketeer on the battlefield, and the other is a master in the original army. Later, after being secretly prepared by the Star-Spangled Banner, James became a super mutant. If these 2 peak combatants failed at the hands of single-digit opponents, there would be no excuse or reason to be angry even if they came to the Star-Spangled Banner country. After all, they sent 2 people into the Chinese territory without giving any notice, so they should have been caught. Please surrender. The Chinese soldier king directly launched an attack. No wonder I said why there are so few people nearby. It turns out that evacuation has been done a long time ago. Your Huaxia country is doing things in a flawless manner. Hundreds of enemies against musketeers. That is, the old middle-aged man pulled out his unique large pistol. This type of pistol with a caliber of 12.7 mm is impossible for ordinary people to use. The strong recoil can easily break the wrist. Only people who have undergone long-term training and weigh more than 80 kilograms can use it more flexibly. But this is just for use. If you want to become a master, you will never be able to do it. Hamden is the one exception among these. He is a master of using weapons. Bang bang. In the quiet streets, the battle between 6 top Chinese warrior kings and 2 top masters from the Star-Spangled Banner nation began. The sky is brightening. 3 days have passed since Jia Yan escaped from the Northeast Wild Tiger factory. During these 3 days, the weather became a bit cold. The weather in the north is like this. Once it enters the autumn and winter seasons, it gets cold very quickly. Jia Yan could feel the blood in his body freezing while flying in the air. The surface temperature is not low, about 15 or 16 degrees Celsius, but when flying in the air at a height of tens of meters, the external temperature will directly drop to less than 10 degrees Celsius. If you fly at high speed, it will directly drop to around 0 degrees. He was currently flying at an altitude of more than 70 meters. In order to test your own temperature resistance strength. Mosquitoes are cold-blooded animals, which are so-called cold-blooded animals. Their body temperature changes with the temperature of the outside world. In such a high-altitude environment, the temperature of rapid flight will directly drop to around 0 degrees. The body metabolism of ordinary mosquitoes will stop at about 10 degrees Celsius, but Jia Yan's mutated body can withstand harsher environments, just like those fish in the cold zone. They are also cold-blooded animals, but they can survive in water with sub-zero temperatures. Free survival and reproduction. But Jia Yan feels that he is not yet at that level. After flying at high speed for less than 10 minutes, he began to feel that his body was a little stiff. The 6 long legs became very inflexible, and it was very difficult to flap the wings. But Jia Yan still continues. The body's cold tolerance cannot be developed in a short period of time, but he must carefully evaluate whether he can move well in real cold weather. Judging from the current results, it is very difficult to act well. It was only about 0 degrees, and he could hardly move after only 10 minutes. The weather in the north changes at any time. Maybe it's not impossible to drop the temperature to around 0 in 10 days and a half. If it can't stand the cold, then it will have no choice but to spend the winter like ordinary mosquitoes, looking for a place with warm air and no circulation. This is definitely not the result Jia Yan wants to see. Fortunately, although he froze relatively quickly, he showed something unusual in his patience. He kept his body feeling the temperature around zero until half an hour later, when Jia Yan could not keep up with his physical fitness and landed slowly. It seems that apart from the stiffness and inflexibility of my body, I can still survive the freezing temperature and maintain a certain level of mobility. But if the temperature drops to -10 degrees or even lower, that's not necessarily the case. Through estimation, Jia Yan understood his own temperature tolerance limit. The 3 mutations plus the effect of sucking the mysterious juice did not make him greatly improve in temperature tolerance. But there is nothing we can do about it. The previous mutations were all focused on strengthening the body. This kind of sideline thing will probably not be changed until the next time or even the next time. So after drawing this conclusion and data, Jia Yan fell into deep thought. No, the weather in the north is still too dangerous for me. If the temperature really drops to zero, after my flying speed reaches a certain level, I may even directly feel the temperature of -10 degrees. Will I freeze to death directly? Or my body will freeze to death, I can't guarantee it. So the matter in the north must be resolved quickly. I really can't wait for the black liquid of the northeastern wild tiger, so I will return to the underground world, surrounded by the army of cockroaches, suck the mysterious juice again, and then escape. Go to the south? It's been a long time since I've been back to my hometown. There are rarely sub-zero temperatures in my hometown in the winter, so I'll go home. Thinking of going home, thinking of his parents and his little sister who was thinking about him, Jia Yan didn't know why, but his body that should have been frozen seemed to be filled with warmth again. But Jia Yan didn't remember that several of his plans had to be changed due to various changes. Maybe it will be the same this time. After all, plans cannot keep up with changes. Since we want a quick victory, I must greatly increase my combat effectiveness in a short period of time. The method of improving combat effectiveness through training is definitely too late, so let's put it into practice with another plan I thought of earlier. I just want to find it at Chiyuan. I just don't know if it can be launched smoothly. While Jia Yan was thinking, his body had already flown towards a tree, preparing to land there. It happened that a bat flew nearby. Jia Yan didn't think much at all, he flew over, and before the bat could react, the mouth needle pierced out. The bat died immediately. After killing the bat, Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. He had become accustomed to killing bats these days. Originally, he didn't want to kill the bat. After all, it was no longer necessary to practice with bats. Because the effect has been achieved. After 3 days of training every night, Jia Yan has finally made great progress in flexibility, and there have been many changes in aggression and attack methods. Land in that tree and take a little snore there. By the time it was midnight, Jia Yan had regained his energy. He flies out of the canopy. This time he was no longer wandering in the woods, but spread out and flew directly towards a human county dozens of kilometers away. He wants to be there and carry out his own plan. But what Jia Yan didn't know was that the two parties, who had been fighting and fleeing for 3 days, also came to the city during the battle. The name of the city is Tumen City. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 87. Please collect it. Dozens of kilometers away, Jia Yan, who had just become a mosquito, might not be able to reach it until he died. But now, for him, dozens of kilometers can only be reached in half an hour. The changes can be earth-shaking. Jia Yan lowered his altitude when flying. During the previous temperature test, he flew at an altitude of more than 70 meters, which was a bit too high. Not only is the temperature low, but the oxygen content of the air is also relatively low. It's okay to feel the pain during the test, but you don't want to do it normally. Jia Yan is not a person with masochistic tendencies. The scenery under his feet quickly receded in his eyes. At more than 30 meters in the sky, it was already higher than most trees. However, Jia Yan often encountered trees higher than his flying height and had to lift himself up. Jia Yan's current flying method is very similar to that of some birds. Flight mainly relies on gliding. Only when he urgently needs speed, he will twist his muscles and let his wings flap at a high frequency to increase speed. However, this wastes a lot of energy, and Jia Yan is not prepared to use it unless there is an emergency. Soon, a scene of flickering lights several kilometers away appeared in front of us. Tumen City is a small border city, with a population of only a few 100,000 including the towns. Therefore, the county seat of the city is not too big. A few days ago, Jia Yan came to Tumen City from Chuncheng by train. But now that he has returned to his hometown again, he is no longer the little mosquito who can only rely on car rides to travel. In other words, if he wants to ride on a train, he has to consider whether he can get on it. It is simply impossible to blend into a train or car like before. It only took Jia Yan less than 5 minutes from seeing the lights in the distance to flying over them. He increased his flight altitude again. More than 70 meters, it climbed directly to an altitude of more than 200 meters. The temperature here is lower, but if the flight speed is reduced, the impact will not be very big. At least at a height of more than 200 meters, the risk of being discovered by humans will be much reduced. After all, from a distance, it looked vaguely like a big bird in the night. I have to choose a good place to land, and the landing can't take too long. Jia Yan was convinced. After several mutations and the help of mysterious juice, his compound eyes are now similar to humans, and he has infrared heat sensing ability, so he can clearly see the scenery below at an altitude of more than 200 meters. Next is an important part of his plan. Jia Yan lowered his head and looked. He was using his thermal infrared sensing ability to feel the heat of the houses. This house is not good, there are too many people. Jia Yan first looked at a house on the outskirts of the city. Then he shook his head. He looked at the houses one by one. Some houses are suitable, but there are too many lights around, and Jia Yan's huge body is easily noticed when flying down. He continued to circle. It was not that no one saw Jia Yan in the city below. A little boy pulled his mother and pointed at Jia Yan's flying body, as if wondering what it was. But when his mother raised her head to look, were there any flying animals in the sky? Adults always only half listen to what children say, so this mother just smiled and got over it. The small border town has some unique cultural features. At around 11 o'clock in the middle of the night, there were still some people walking around in Korean costumes on the street. This kind of city is actually a good tourist place, but Jia Yan is no longer in the mood to appreciate it. He just wants to complete his plan quickly. After flying several times in the sky, he finally felt that the owner of a house had the door open, but he didn't know where he was. Moreover, this house belongs to the old city, there are no street lights around, and the light source is relatively poor. Jia Yan flies down and is difficult to detect. Good chance. Jia Yan's eyes lit up and his body tilted suddenly. It was like a fighter jet swooping attack, breaking through a certain limit in an instant, causing a gust of wind and falling rapidly. He was like a bomb, hitting the bottom hard. And just when he was about to reach the sky above the house, Jia Yan's body retracted again, and his powerful muscles allowed him to make quick and sudden stops. The body made a beautiful spin in the air, reducing the sprint speed of falling. Then, Jia Yan landed lightly at the door of the house with his 6 legs facing the ground. The lights around him were very dim, and his ferocious body had reflective clots on the surface. The sight of these clots showed that they had extraordinary defense capabilities. Jia Yan, a big dark mosquito, walked carelessly with 6 legs into this house where the owner was no longer home. Maybe the owner of this house just went out to do something for a while. Jia Yan even heard that this person was among the people talking not far from the door. In fact, entering someone's home is very risky. But Jia Yan couldn't control so much, not to mention that after several teachers and students escaped from the Northeast Wild Tiger Factory, he felt that the fact that giant creatures existed would one day be known to the world, so even if he was really seen, it just moves that time forward a little. Anyway, based on the ordinary humans outside, Jia Yan is not worried about being caught on the spot. He entered the room, and then compound eyes faintly appeared. After looking at the door of a room, he climbed into the room. Really? Jia Yan felt from the outside that there was a heat source turning on in this room, and it felt like a laptop, and he guessed it right. A small black laptop of about 12 inches, running. Sorry, please lend me this notebook first. The master may return soon, so Jia Yan is very fast. He first flew up a little, controlled his two front legs, and unplugged the laptop. Then open the computer interface in standby mode and check whether the battery power is sufficient. By the way, check whether the computer has a password set. If the battery of this laptop fails, then he will have to give up. He doesn't want to run out of power while using it. It doesn't work even if you set a password. Jia Yan is not an expert. He can't crack the power on password. Good. It seems that most people really don't know how to set a power on password. Jia Yan soon saw that the laptop started normally. The owner is using the wireless network, which Jia Yan is most satisfied with. Without further ado, Jia Yan picked up the mouse and mousepad with his front feet, flew around the room, and found a packaging bag for clothes. Jia Yan stuffed the mouse and mousepad into the bag, and then heard some movement. This is the sound of footsteps approaching the house outside the gate. No, the master is coming back. Jia Yan felt a little impatient, and quickly used his front legs to close the lit laptop screen. Sweep the right front foot and directly sweep the laptop into the packaging bag held firmly by the left front foot and a pair of midfoot. Jia Yan's power now is really great. Compared with the time when he could only push the mouse with all his strength, he was like two different creatures. But this was not the time to lament this. Jia Yan had clearly heard the sound of the owner returning to the house and closing the door again with a click. Quick! Jia Yan's compound eyes are faint, and his left forefoot is carrying a packaging bag. In the bag are a laptop computer and a mouse. Since the packaging bag is made of plastic, it makes a slight sound when it is lifted. The sound of footsteps walking at the door, a slight pause. Master heard it. Jia Yan immediately knew that the master noticed someone was in the house. Of course, if he sees Jia Yan, he won't be a human, but a giant mosquito monster. But Jia Yan has got what he wants now. He spreads his wings. The plastic bag is carried in the front feet. Although this laptop is only a lightweight item, it weighs a little more than 1 kilogram. Jia Yan really needs to use more strength to carry it while flying. But this weight is nothing to the current Jia Yan. He held the bag with his left front foot and started flying. The sound is slightly harsh and makes a buzzing noise. Who? The owner at the door finally felt a little nervous and shouted loudly. This is the voice of a young man. However, Jia Yan couldn't control so much and flew directly to the window of the room. Although the window door was tightly closed due to the cold weather, Jia Yan was not a real creature who didn't understand anything. He only saw that he was empty. He stretched out his right front foot and pressed down the window door lock. Who is he? The young master called again at the door. Jia Yan heard footsteps approaching quickly from the door. The owner rushed over in a hurry. But at this time, he had already pushed open the aluminum alloy window with all his strength. Who? A young voice shouted at the door of the room. The young man also jumped into the room with an umbrella in his hand. But there was nothing in the deserted room. With only the open window, gusts of cold wind blew into the room, making him feel slightly chilly. In no time, the owner of the house screamed. "My computer! You bastard thief! How dare you steal my computer? So much information is gone." The young master is hysterical. But he didn't know that the thief was hiding in a small alley next to his house. Lying there, a pair of compound eyes were shining faintly. The owner would not even know that this so-called thief's true identity is not human at all, but an incredibly huge mosquito. "I'm so sorry. I'm using your computer and I'll give it back to you right away," Jia Yan thought apologetically in his heart. The news that the owner of the house had lost his belongings caused some minor commotion in the neighborhood. Even the police came out to inspect the scene, but too many such petty thefts happened every day. The police could only say that they would conduct a little investigation and increase patrols in the area. Within 5 minutes, they registered and left. After an hour or two of commotion, the area returned to peace as if nothing had happened. At 2 o'clock in the morning, most people fall asleep. Jia Yan, who was hiding in a hidden part of the alley, reappeared near the owner's house dragging the plastic bag. Choosing a remote place, Jia Yan took the laptop out of the plastic bag. "Press the power button. By stealing your computer and using your internet, am I doing too much harm? This is not good. It's not just mosquitoes. Don't do this in the future." Jia Yan hypocritically blamed himself. Then, the computer screen lights up. "Okay, I haven't contacted those two killers for a long time. Let's get in touch and see." Jia Yan controlled the mouse with his left front foot and clicked on the QQ login box. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 88. Please collect. Beep beep beep. As soon as I logged into my new QQ account, a message rang out. No. It's too loud. Jia Yan's heart tightened. He forgot one thing, that is, he didn't turn down the computer sound. The sound was very clear at this time. He quickly controlled the mouse with his right front foot and right middle foot, like two fingers, clicking the left and right buttons respectively. Although it is a little inflexible, it is still 100 times better than the little mosquito that it was when it was a mutant. There is no need to hit the body, and there is no need to spend too much effort. The comparison is happiness. Adjust the system sound to silent. Hearing that no one around was attracted by the sound, Jia Yan breathed a sigh of relief. No one else has been added to this number, and only those two guys will send me messages. Open it and see what they say. When I opened the message, the flashing profile picture was indeed a handsome image of a Korean oppa. "Hello, we would like to discuss something with you, which is to invite you to join our organization. What do you think? Please reply if you see it." "Invite me?" Jia Yan's eyes widened. It seemed that these two killers really regarded him as a master. In fact, although the two killers really regarded Jia Yan as a master, they did not regard him as a powerful figure in the world of killers. Because of Jia Yan's way of doing things, if you look back at them, there are still many unfamiliar places. But being able to know all their information without saying a word, and even knowing the place where they live, must be the skill of a master. So much so that the two of them couldn't determine whether the guy nicknamed Chang Gwen was really strong or fake. Without thinking, Jia Yan typed a response with his two front feet. Finally, he can evolve from the body collision to the classic two fingers and typing method. This is such a huge progress, Jia Yan has the urge to cry at this moment. This is playing with computers. In the chat box, he entered this line. "Although I have no idea of joining your organization for the time being, I can't consider it in the future. I don't know where you two are now. But I have something I need your help with. If possible, please help me. Many thanks." Jia Yan's typing speed is not just 1 or 2 points, the two fingers and typing method is much better than body collision. Jia Yan was not interested in the other party's invitation at all, but this time he wanted to trouble others. If he refused directly, the other party would probably ignore his request for help. After all, this was the second time. When he went to Shanghai, he helped the other party kill Yu Tao, but the other party also helped him capture Yu Yuan, which was equal to the tie. After searching for the Manchurian wild tiger factory and asking them to pay for information, it was tantamount to owing a favor. Even Jia Yan, who shamelessly asked for help this time, felt that he, as a senior, was a bit unscrupulous. Jia Yan waited, thinking that if the other party was not online, he could only leave a message and check back online tomorrow. I didn't expect that the other party was actually online. At the same time, on the other side of the ocean, in the eastern part of the country called the Star-Spangled Banner Country. It was afternoon here, and the hot sun was shining on the earth. Two men were driving a vehicle on a wide road. Both of them have typical Oriental faces, but they both speak fluent Star-Spangled Banner dialect, as if they were born and raised in the Star-Spangled Banner Country. Suddenly the driver's face changed, and a sound like a bell came from his pocket. Then he reached into his pants pocket and took out his cell phone. Immediately afterwards, the young man wearing glasses in the passenger seat also came over. After a while, Jia Yan received a reply. "Hello, we are now in the Star-Spangled Banner Country. It is a pity that we cannot cooperate with you. We are all looking forward to future cooperation. As for the help you are talking about, what is it? As long as it is not a big problem, we are very willing to help." Jia Yan smiled and nodded in his heart. It seemed that these two guys were really good. In this case, he could help them one or two more times in the future within his own ability. It would be considered a favor. He composed his thoughts and then typed out a row of words. The following request may surprise the other party, or make him a little confused, but Jia Yan can't care so much. In his opinion, this kind of thing is the best idea to improve his own combat effectiveness in the near future. "I have a set of metal plans here. Can you help me find the best metal you can find and build it according to it?" Jia Yan stared at the screen nervously. Seeing this, many people should be able to guess what Jia Yan's method was to temporarily improve his combat effectiveness. That's right. It's a metal exoskeleton. Jia Yan had thought of this as early as the underground world. He had evaluated his strength, defense, and attack methods. Putting everything together, he felt that what he lacked was in defense and attack methods. As for strength, it is absolutely enough. After all, with his current body of more than 20 centimeters and his extreme strength, he can actually carry an object weighing 15 or 6 kilograms and fly. It simply violates the laws of biology. The 6 long legs are also strong enough. The front legs can lift about 10 kilograms of weight, the middle legs can lift about 8 kilograms of objects and push things of 20 kilograms. The hind legs are not very good at lifting objects, but they have 4 legs. About 10 kilograms of thrust. These powers are very impressive, so Jia Yan thought about it in the underground world for a long time, and finally found the most suitable inspiration for himself from the science fiction movies he had seen before. That's a metal exoskeleton. His body is not big and not heavy, but relatively speaking, he is very powerful. Therefore, it is completely possible to fly and attack in the air without any other power, but to rely on its own strength to carry a heavy metal exoskeleton. It's a brilliant idea, isn't it? There was silence on the other side for a long time. This also tested Jia Yan's patience. He was wondering, was he too abrupt? Or maybe the other party will think of something through his request. After all, if he is really a powerful senior, then he shouldn't bother him with everything. In fact, the two killers on the other side of the world were indeed discussing these issues. This senior is really interesting. This kind of thing is troublesome for us. We are killers, not metal factories, the bearded man smiled bitterly and shook his head. But in this case, we can do some analysis. The first point is that the other party really does not have the resources in this area. This is indeed a bit incredible for a master. Then the second guess should be reliable. That is because the other party has extremely high requirements for this metal, so high that he cannot find a suitable one in his environment, so he asked the two of us. The young man wearing glasses pushed up his glasses and analyzed slowly. How should we respond? After all, we are not familiar with making metal or anything. The bearded man felt that the senior on the other side of the chat box had subverted his previous image and was a bit imaginative. But the other party should have some tricks. After all, with so many guards, this person could use the CHR-379 virus they provided to kill Utah. So he followed the words of the young man wearing glasses and asked a question first. Senior, I don't know what you want to build. We are not very familiar with the metal forging industry. If the project you want to build is too exaggerated, we will definitely not be able to do it. But if it is just a small project, we can see if it can be done through the organization. Find the right solution for you. Jia Yan was at the computer, waiting until he almost fell asleep. However, when this news appeared, he immediately cheered up. It's not a big project, it's just a model component. The size is no more than half a meter, but the metal requirements are very high. It looks like an insect. Please ask, can you do it? Another long wait passed. 10 minutes later, Jia Yan received a reply. We can arrange for a metal factory in Germany to make it for you. In terms of metal, our organization can use a batch of top-grade steel for the military of the Star-Spangled Banner to be given to you. After all, the amount you need is not much, so this does not matter. Not a big problem. Marvelous. Jia Yan felt excited in his heart, and then he continued to type a row of words with some embarrassment. I'm sorry, I don't know what your charges are like. I'm a little tight on money recently, so. Haha, this is not a big problem. Talking about money hurts feelings. You just need to remember that if you intend to join the killer organization in the future, you should give priority to joining us. Jia Yan was really touched by the reply from the other party. At the beginning, Jia Yan was really just using these two people, and he was ready to kill each other with the CHR-379 virus at any time. After all, he was just a killer. But now, after the other party helped him find the location of the Northeast Wild Tiger factory, he went to Shiyuan and agreed to help him make an exoskeleton without asking for anything in return, which really touched Jia Yan. Next time, if there is a chance and the target they assassinate is really difficult and a bad guy, then help them. Although Jia Yan felt that he had lost the advantage of being a mosquito and that it would not be much easier than a killer to kill someone, he still made a decision to repay these two killers if he had the opportunity in the future. Thank you very much. As for the overall shape of the metal components, I will draw the drawings and hand them over to you within 3 hours. I hope they can be completed and handed over to me as soon as possible. Jia Yan replied the sentence, and then he didn't even have time to read the reply message, so he clicked on the picture editing software he just downloaded on his computer. First, I went online to look for pictures of mosquitoes that look similar to my own. Then I created a new layer on the picture and moved the mouse along the border while looking at my own body. He is roughly drawing the appearance of the exoskeleton he wants. The 6 long legs need to have movable switches. When the switch is turned on, you can take off the front section and show the normal front foot state. But if you put this metal section on, you can put a sharp blade on the front section. Jia Yan thought about the idea very carefully. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 89. Please collect. In this narrow and quiet corner of the city, a huge mosquito lay in the darkness, its compound eyes reflecting the computer screen, constantly concentrating on its work. This is a sight that will shock everyone who sees it. Of course, no one knows what kind of monster the big mosquito will create after its job is completed. Considering load-bearing and dispersing the impact force, I must be like this, wings are more troublesome, but I would rather sacrifice a little mobility to make myself safer, so it must be like this, no, here it should be made detachable. And it should fit my own body structure, so I can't put it on and be unable to take it off. In just 3 hours, it can be said that Jia Yan's imagination was really opened up. Combining the rough ideas I had for many days, plus some temporary inspirations. When the final plan, which was a sketch, was sent to the two killers on the other side of the ocean, the two people on the opposite side felt extremely surprised. Is this a metal model? But it looks very precise, and some parts can really only be processed by top factories. After reading the entire sketch plan and some data indicators, the two killers smiled bitterly. It seems that they agreed too early. Just for this model, which requires hundreds of parts to be assembled, the labor cost will not be low, and it also requires precision. It can be said that there are no more than 10 or 200,000 Chinese coins. It was impossible to get it, and the price was more than 10 or 200,000, or because the German factory was a friendly price offered by an acquaintance within their organization. Forget it. The favor has been given out, and it's hard to take it back. Just send out the drawings, it's only a dozen or 200,000, and each of us will bear half of it. The young man wearing glasses shook his head helplessly and then turned on his computer. Make basic modifications to pictures, as well as polish and professional processing and modeling. None of them thought that this metal model was just some special personal hobby, and they were even thinking about whether it was worth using their connections to receive a special grade military medal from the organization just for this metal model. But now that the words have been said, I just hope that this senior will remember their kindness. After completing basic modeling and other work, the young man wearing glasses sent the drawings and some data to the factory he had contacted by email. Because Jia Yan's request is to complete it as soon as possible. So he is also urging us very urgently. The German factory obviously also valued it very much. They received the drawings as soon as possible, and then started work with the seriousness of German people. None of this group of people knew that something that took a lot of effort to create would become a real killer weapon. Okay, I've done everything I can do, now I just wait. Over in Tumen City, in order to save power, Jia Yan turned off the computer power after confirming the data with the two killers for the last time. All you can do now is wait. But at this moment, a noisy sound reached Jia Yan's ears. Snapped. That's gunfire. Jia Yan stood up in surprise. As someone who has heard several gunshots recently and even received a bullet, he is very sensitive to gunshots. That was definitely not firecrackers or fireworks, it was gunshots? Why are there gunshots? Jia Yan felt strange. This should be rare in China. Bang bang bang. And not all at once, there was a loud sound of gunfire, as if firecrackers were really set off. Jia Yan couldn't sit still any longer, so he hid his laptop more secretly and quietly flew up. At 2 or 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, this is the most ideal time for human beings to sleep, so many people fell into a deep sleep. Even with the loud sound of gunfire, not many people noticed it. Of course, if the gunfire continues like this, it will definitely cause a commotion. Jia Yan made full use of the darkness of the night and flew out of the alley in some dark blind spots. Sure enough, a thrilling gun battle took place before your eyes. Two men with foreign faces were fighting against 5 soldiers wearing heavy equipment. 2 men and an old middle-aged man were holding the famous pistol Eagle of the Desert. As a biology enthusiast, Jia Yan once heard about a powerful large-caliber pistol when he was searching for certain creatures. No creature on Earth can withstand it. It cannot be said to be a pistol, but it should be said to be a hand cannon. So he went to check it out and found out that this firearm, known as the King of Pistols, was really powerful. Now this old middle-aged man is using this gun. With a snap, the pistol fired bullets. The soldiers on the opposite side were obviously the elite of the elite. When the other party launched an attack, they looked for bunkers and hid in the shadow of the house. But one private house was not so lucky. It was directly hit by Desert Eagle's bullets. It was really like being hit by artillery fire, with a big hole appearing. Ah, a woman screamed in the house. While Jia Yan was observing the outside world, the street began to become chaotic. The few people in the gunfight didn't look nervous at all, and they continued to fight. What's going on? What kind of battle is this? There is no police force in the city. There are only a few people who look like they are from the army and two foreigners are having a gunfight. Jia Yan was a little confused. However, he soon noticed the appearance of police cars. Several emergency police cars and SWAT cars drove near the street. However, they did not participate in the battlefield, but evacuated the crowd urgently. Two people who looked like reporters appeared, and another person carried a camera. However, after a policeman stopped them, these people had to put down the camera and use a camera to shoot instead. It seems there are restrictions. What kind of battle is it? Is it an exercise? This isn't all live ammunition, it shouldn't have much to do with the drills, right? The fight between the two parties was very thrilling, and soon Jia Yan saw the young foreigner throwing a dark object the size of an egg. Grenade. When Jia Yan realized what it was, sure enough, the grenade had been thrown dozens of meters, hit several heavily armed soldiers, and then exploded with light. Boom! An earth-shattering sound exploded. There are steel balls in the grenade. These steel balls are the most destructive power of the grenade. When the grenade explodes, the steel balls fly out in all directions, hitting all the soldiers. Puff 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 puff. The two foreigners held firearms in their hands, with sneers on their faces. Jia Yan was surprised to notice that out of the 5 soldiers who were hit by grenades, only 2 were hit by explosives in the blind spot of their protective clothing and retreated slightly injured. The other few soldiers were fine and were only wearing protective clothing. If you get a little damaged, keep fighting. I didn't expect that our country, China, would actually develop such an exaggerated combat protective suit. How on earth was this done? I remember the biggest danger caused by the explosion. In addition to the splatter, the even more powerful thing is the shock wave. A single shock can destroy all the organs. It's so shaken. Are these soldiers special humans? The battle on the battlefield is still going on, but after the 2 wounded people retreated, it became 2 versus 3. Although the Chinese soldiers still had the advantage in terms of numbers, none of the 5 people could beat 2 of them, and now 3 people couldn't. Victory is possible. And the biggest harm is to the houses near the battlefield. These houses were damaged by powerful bullets and explosives, and one of them showed signs of wall collapse. Aren't these the 2 foreigners who appeared on TV? They have been running away for 3 days in a row. What's going on with us in China? Why can't we catch them? Suddenly Jia Yan felt someone coming out from beside him. He quickly retracted his body into a dry ditch on the side of the road. In the dim environment, no one would know that there was a huge mosquito in the ditch without paying attention. These 2 foreigners came to Tumen city from fighting and killing all the way from small cities near Jiangxi province. What do those policemen do to eat? It turned out that after 2 foreign special personnel were intercepted by 6 soldiers in a small city, not only did they not stop, but they moved faster in a certain direction in China. In order to prevent bad conflicts with the Star-Spangled Banner, the Chinese side tried their best to suppress the incident. During the day, due to the large number of people, they ordered the soldiers not to attack. But in such a situation, what resulted was not that the other party understood and left the country knowingly, but that the battle with the king of Chinese soldiers became more fierce again and again. Unable to hide this level of fighting, some TV media broadcast it and said that these two were international armed criminal gangs. Fortunately, their actions in China did not cause casualties to ordinary people. Otherwise, the pressure from public opinion would have been even greater. Even so, China is on the verge of an outbreak. No country can tolerate national personnel from other countries fighting wantonly in their own country. Now there are constant non-public letters of inquiry in contact with the Stars and Stripes country, but there is generally no response. It was even more exaggerated today. The other party actually caused a large-scale battle in the border city, and even affected several private houses. It is unknown if anyone was injured. The Huaxia kingdom could finally sit still no longer. A trailing elite army of 100 people was about to enter the battlefield. One of the 6 soldiers was injured in the previous battle, and now 2 of the remaining 5 soldiers were injured by grenade explosions. The remaining 3 were in great difficulty. This is not because the Chinese military king is bad, but because the other party grasps the military king's position and fights in the city of his own country. He does not dare to cause too much damage, so he shrinks back and looks for Shuyuan, so he takes advantage of this, constantly causing the attrition of several military kings. The damaged house kept people running out of the house. A 3 or 4-year-old girl was being held in her mother's arms. Their house happened to be facing the street on the 2nd floor. It had just been hit by a grenade fragment, and the windows were shattered all over the floor. A piece of the wall of that house collapsed. The residents thought that the house was going to collapse completely, so they all ran outside in a swarm. "Don't come out, everyone hide back," someone on the Soldier King's side shouted quickly. But it was too late, and the old middle-aged foreign man holding the Desert Eagle pistol had a ferocious expression on his face. The shouting king of soldiers also changed his expression, and then he threw himself towards the 2 mother and daughter. Snapped. With a sound, the king of soldiers laid his body in front of the mother and daughter, and a big blood hole appeared directly on his right arm. The king of soldiers screamed. The mother and daughter were so frightened that they fell to the ground. The old middle-aged foreigner had a sly smile on his face. He continued to point his gun at the little girl who fell from her mother's arms to the ground 2 or 3 meters away. The next step is to shoot. Either the king of soldiers will fight to the death and continue to block bullets, or this little girl will die. Asshole. Even the little girl won't be spared. Unexpectedly, his move made a giant mosquito that happened to be hiding nearby become furious. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 90. Please collect. There was a buzzing sound, and the giant mosquito rushed out of the ditch. Jia Yan's wings flap rapidly. At this moment, he didn't think too much, didn't think about whether he would be discovered, let alone whether he was a mosquito and had nothing to do with humans. To be honest, Jia Yan has lived alone for so long, and still thinks of himself as a human every day. Although his body is like a mosquito, he has always been grateful for the time he had as a human. So when this old middle-aged foreigner wanted to attack a child, Jia Yan rushed out of the ditch without thinking too much. 2 media outlets in the distance were allowed to use cameras to capture scenes of the battle. Even the photographers were shaking with anger, but they still had to record the scene and publish it because of their better professionalism. The little girl stood in the middle of the road, that is, she fell between the 2 sides. There was a little blood on her head, which was from the fall and hit. A 3 or 4-year-old child who only knows how to cry looks heart-wrenching and pitiful. At this moment, the middle-aged foreigner with an old appearance pulled the trigger inhumanely. Bang! The powerful Desert Eagle pistol, with its large 12.7 mm caliber, fired not bullets, but a deadly ghost. This ghost rushed towards the little girl in the center of the battlefield at an astonishing speed. If there was no accident, the little girl totally impossible to survive. None of the soldiers expected that these 2 masters of the Star-Spangled Banner would be so shameless as to murder a little girl, leaving them unable to react and unable to rescue her in time. As for the people further away, it is even less likely that they will be able to catch up. The two photographers were ready to press the shooting button in their hands. Capturing this will surely shock the entire country and then condemn the relevant units. And just when everyone couldn't hide their expressions of excitement, pain, or surprise, a dark shadow of quick lightning from a dark alley near the little girl. Fly out. Give it to me and fly at full speed. Jia Yan was in the air, flapping his wings with all his strength. He felt like his body turned into a stream of light. Black streamer. Everything around me is faintly transformed into lines of various colors. In his compound eyes, there was only the crying little human girl. As a person who had died, he really didn't want to see a 3 or 4-year-old girl die tragically on the street with her body incomplete. That's so pathetic. Therefore, Jia Yan exploded with all his strength. He doesn't know what the speed is now. I don't even care about speed anymore. Only the young girl a few meters away can be seen in the compound eyes. At this time, gunfire rang out. The bullets fired from a super large caliber pistol cannot be called pistol bullets at all, but should be said to be artillery shells. The superkinetic energy makes the shuttle bullet like a phantom, leaving a golden trajectory in the air. Jia Yan is fighting. What matters is whether you are faster or the bullet is faster. It's like a fantasy, isn't it? But Jia Yan firmly believes that he has a chance. He leaves earlier. He is closer. So there must be a chance. There must be some. Jia Yan went crazy. When he flapped his wings, he could feel the muscles of his wings screaming. Ah! Jia Yan felt that he had squeezed all his potential and was completely crazy. His only thought was to save this young girl. It doesn't matter whether it will be noticed by humans or whether it has any bad influence. He's just a mosquito now. Just a mosquito that is not human. Just do it if you want to do it, no need to think too much. Two shadows, one large and one small, almost invisible to the naked eye, rushed towards the little girl in the middle of the street from two directions. Close. Close. Jia Yan felt that the distance was instantly closing with all his strength. He pressed his front foot down quickly. Be sure to get it right. Call. Jia Yan didn't even know how fast he was. In the lightning and flint, a pair of front feet and a pair of midfoot seemed to have caught some piece of cloth. Then he directly raised his 4 long legs, grabbed the little girl's collar in an instant, and flew forward quickly with the inertia of forward motion. Rush, Jia Yan felt that the bullet might be only a short distance away from him and the little girl. If you don't fly quickly, you will die. Jia Yan believes that if such a terrifying large caliber bullet hits his body, even if it is the chest area with the strongest defense, the result will be serious injury at the very least. Even if the bullet cannot break through the layers of defenses of the clot and exoskeleton, but the super strong impact energy will also shake the organs in his body into a mess. So this is the most dangerous moment. Fly. Under the gaze of countless people, the little girl was dragged directly into the air by a dark object approaching quickly, like lightning, and flew into the air. 2 photographers, including some people who took out their mobile phones to take pictures, captured the momentary image of this dark figure. Snapped. Jia Yan could feel the feeling of the huge round bullet grazing their bodies and flying far away. Actually did it? Ha. Jia Yan breathed a long sigh of relief, but his fatigue was rising like never before. Whoops. Jia Yan pulled the little girl. Although the child was not heavy, she weighed about 10 kilograms. Almost the moment he grabbed her, the inertia of Jia Yan's forward flight was greatly reduced. The little girl's feet were both off the ground, and Jia Yan made a buzzing noise while being carried away from the ground to fly. What's this? Several soldiers and the old-looking middle-aged foreign men looked at the animals that were flying away quickly and could only see the after images. Only the handsome and tall foreign young man had a strange light shining in his blue eyes. He seemed to change in an instant, then he raised his pistol, pointed it at the little girl who was about to fly into another dark alley, and quickly fired a shot. Snapped. Poof. Everyone only saw that the black object was suddenly shot up in the air. The little girl he was holding was also thrown to the ground, but due to the inertia of the forward motion, she still fell into the back of the house in the alley. She would no longer be threatened by the guns of the two foreigners. As for the dark monster, it was knocked flying for a certain distance by the inertia of the bullet in the dark. Directly using the forward inertia of this bullet, he suddenly vibrated his wings and rushed towards the back of a house. Almost in less than a second, the shadow was lost again. From the beginning to the end, no one could see clearly what this monster flying at high speed in the night looked like. This monster was obviously not killed by the foreign young man's shot. What the hell is that? Countless people present were greatly surprised. At this moment, a large wave of figures dressed as soldiers separated the crowd from the periphery and trotted towards the battlefield. Bang bang bang. The sound of neat footsteps made people know that they were a group of elite soldiers. The people cheered, and finally the country's army appeared to protect people's lives and property. Each of these soldiers is fully equipped. Except for the protective clothing that may be worse than that of several soldier kings, there is nothing else wrong. They are all armed to the teeth. Their faces were handsome and cold, and when they saw the street scenes, these soldiers gritted their teeth. Any soldier would be so angry if he knew that his country was being attacked by other countries. Hampton, it seems that we have really angered this country. Let's leave quickly. If we don't leave, we won't be able to leave. The young foreigner seemed to be quite afraid of the 100 elite soldiers who came to support him. He straightened the old middle-aged foreign man and ran directly towards the alley beside him. James. Young man, why don't you use your real strength? Let these Chinese people see the fighting power of the top super mutants. They will be surprised. The old middle-aged man known as Hampton, there was no trace of fear on his face. No need, no matter how I use my strength, I can't defeat this group of soldiers. You have to know that they are not just 100 soldiers, but also the real elites of the Huaxia kingdom. But they dare to continue to pursue, and when they reach the forest area, then don't blame me for fighting back. James had a confident smile on his handsome face. Stop chasing. The 100 elite soldiers at the rear were about to continue their pursuit, but were stopped by 5 soldier kings. Behind these people are the crowds of at least several thousand people. The Chinese people are like this. They know that a gun battle is going on in this area, but they still risk their lives to come and watch. Watching is the biggest hobby of Chinese people. The destination of these two foreigners should be the forest ahead. Next, a few of us will enter the forest to hunt them down. You just need to evacuate the crowd and provide follow-up support. The middle-aged captain among the soldiers said to the leader of 100 elite soldiers. Yes, the leader's rank is definitely not low, but in front of the soldier king captain, he can only accept orders honestly. At this time, the little girl who fell in the alley was picked up by her mother amidst a burst of crying. Except for a few scratches all over the body, there were no major injuries. What on earth is that? Captain Bingwan couldn't help but cast his gaze in the direction away from the previous monster. The flying creature was so fast that he didn't even see what it looked like. And when the foreigner opened fire, he grabbed the little girl and flew away. Was he really trying to save people? Or some other purpose? If it's the former, then this monster's IQ is too terrifying. There were too many public witnesses present, and these people posted their videos online from all angles so fast that the relevant units had no time to react. There wasn't much time at all, and a piece of information about a monster risking his life to save a little girl in the battlefield appeared all over the internet. On the internet, things seemed to have exploded, causing continued fermentation. And there is a dark place not far from the crowd. A dark creature flying swayingly fell from the sky.